Thanks, Charles, for the introduction. Um, Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me here. I know it's already 4. You guys must be super tired, super exhausted. I'm really sorry about that. But I promise you that I'll do full justice to the next 40 minutes that you're gonna spend with me and make it as knowledgeable and as entertaining as I can. 30 minutes plus Q&A. Okay. Okay, so before that, I have a small exercise for you all. You all have these shiny, amazing badges in your necks, right? Lying on your tum-tums, not doing anyone any good right now. As a way of meeting more people and talking to more people and networking, especially in the after party that we have, I want you all to lift your badges a little bit up, slide it across your neck, and put it in the back. Okay, should I do it? Okay, let's do it together. So I want you to lift it up. Yes, perfect. So that now people in the back seats can read your name. No navel staring at all. No asking you, oh, what's your name, right? Thank you so much. Okay, let me just take it out. Great, let's begin. Now you guys can read everyone's names, right? You don't have to stare at the navel anymore. Perfect. Okay. So I have a question for you all. What does this button indicate to you? Okay, I hear floppy disk, save. How about this? I hear download and save again. Inbox. Favorites, save, bookmarks. Save, right? So in reality, all these buttons mean save, but how different they look, right? One's a floppy disk. Yes, I am old. I have seen a floppy disk. One is a bookmark, one is something to do with a downward arrow, which can mean a download, and one just simply save. Now imagine that you are moving between apps all days, and whenever you see one of these buttons, you are thinking, is it save? Is it favorites? What exactly it is? Total chaos, right? And that's when it hits someone that this cannot go on. Long time ago, far, far away, some tech enthusiast decided that we need a design system for UI components. Their mission was so simple: have a unified digital experience, and hence they wanted to design the ultimate button component. This button was just not another button. It had to be a chameleon of buttons, adapting to all forms and functions. They began with a simple basic button, the button with a text, a button with an icon and a text, a button with SVG and text, a button with just an icon. Variants, of course. It had a primary variant. It had a secondary variant. It had a danger variant. Size, of course. It had a small size, a medium, a large, an extra large. It had dark theme, it had light theme, it could work for internationalization, for any text length, it had mobile support, it had iOS support, it had desktop variant, it was accessible. This button had it all and was ready to go. But there's always a but, right? A new VP comes in. He had heard about design systems, and he wanted to design a new design system. He said that this system would be even better. So the team started on building the new button component yet again. Of course, they didn't have a choice. The cycle continued, and everyone on the team, from the designer to the developer, to the quality engineer, to the accessibility engineer, to the product manager, wondered how many times we will be designing, coding, testing, and auditing a button component in our careers. Designing buttons over and over and over and over. I don't know how many overs are there. Let's see. And over and over and over again. But while we were stuck in this loop, the world of design systems was quietly growing up around us. A lot happened to design systems between 2015, and you see 2015 because I started my career in 2015, to 2022. Yes, it's 2022 and not 2025. You'll see in a bit why. And a lot of you are responsible for that change in this room. Writing articles, tweeting about it, writing on your portfolios, etc. Between 2015 and 2022, we saw a boom of design systems. But, again a but, you'll be seeing a lot of buts. Today, these design systems may be in one of the two states. Number one, where significant effort was put into those Figma libraries and architecture and components, but no one really uses those design systems. I call it the design system ghost town, a sad, desolate place. Number two, where teams moved so fast that design systems never even stood a chance, a place even more desolate and desperate. I call it the design system graveyard. So while design systems were either sitting in these ghost towns or were being buried in graveyards, the world outside was quietly changing and was doing something completely different. Where were you guys on November 30, 2022? I remember seeing these first tweets and chats about this AI. And to be honest, it freaked me out a little bit. And my crypto friends were like, can I get an NFT of this thing? I tried out this fascinating thing called AI, trying all the funny things, making my cat wear a birthday cap or making my cat wear a chef hat. And I had a big laugh. I was like, is this the big AI revolution that we are talking about? Does this AI do really anything good apart from being creative or writing those beautiful emails? Fast forward to 2025. AI has entered the room of coding, and it is here to stay. It can help design systems, workflows, and components to stay alive, relevant, and actually used, saving us from the desolate fate of ghost town and graveyards. And now we have AI-driven design systems. Which brings me to today's talk. Are design systems ready for the AI revolution? But before that, hi everyone. I am Navya Agarwal. I work on the Express AI Assistant team at Adobe. I am also a member of the prestigious W3C and ICC Council, where I help my amazing team members to define and write web standards. Great. Now let's start with a quick demo. So this is my first time in this beautiful city of Hamburg, and I learned two quick things in my 24 hours of being here. People love beer. It's cheaper than water at the restaurant I was at last night. And two, people love cars. So we are going to combine these two things today that people love and gonna build, drum roll, Hamburg beerometer. Okay, so I didn't want to risk any live demos, so I have recorded everything. And let me just play this video. Okay, so I quickly went to my cursor and told it everything in the world I could possibly think of to build this Hamburg beerometer. I detailed out the requirements, telling it my intention, explicitly telling it about the components that I need. That is a button component and a thumbnail component. I told it about all the accessibility checks that it has to do, the localization guidelines it had to follow, the different variants it needs to have, the different design token systems that my product needs to have, etc., etc. So as you can see, it has generated the design token.css file. Now it's generating our button component with the different variants and the states that I instructed it to do. And it also generates a button.css files. And next, we will be seeing that it will be generating right now a thumbnail.tsx reusable component, as well as it will be generating some thumbnail.css files along with it. And by the end, we will see that it has given us a good implementation summary of what it did not do, the thumbnail component, the button component. It also talks about, if you see, the YCAG 2.1 AA compliant guidelines that it has followed, and the rest of the keyboard navigation support, screen reader support, etc., etc. So yes, we have a heading. We have a thumbnail component. We have two components, add bare button and a remove bare button. And as we are clicking on this component, it's just updating our thumbnail, telling the state of the human body. Very small one, yeah. So remove bare, yes, add bare, remove bare, add bare, perfect. And we also see that the remove bare button button is going to a disabled state when the current bare consumption is 0. Great demo, right? A wow factor, definitely. And that too at a seductive speed. But the real question is it production ready? It definitely had those visual design gradients and animation, the various responsive states, proper prop handling, and whatnot. But at Adobe, whenever we are designing any design component, we have a governance model or a compliance list. We want to make sure that our component follows all the accessibility guidelines. We want to make sure that it has keyboard navigation enabled. We want to make sure that it has voiceover support. We want to make sure that it has color contrast and whatnot. We also want to make sure that the component is designed for humans. Just because AI can generate something fast doesn't mean that it actually has served the purpose and is inclusive. And of course, privacy and data security comes into picture, right? So now let's just put this component to test and check some of these guidelines or the compliance models. Now I will be turning on the voiceover on my Mac on. Of course, it's a recorded one. And let's see and hear what it does. I would just request the audio team to elevate. Thank you so much. No audio.
Chrome, Vi plus React plus TS. Entering Vi plus React plus TS web content. Add beer, button, main. You are currently on a button. To click this button, press Control, Option, Space. Leaving Vi plus React plus TS. Entering tool, leaving toolbar item palette. Entering Vi plus React plus TS web content. Add beer, button, main. You are currently on a button. To click this button, press Control, Option, Space. Remove beer, button. You are currently on a button. To click this button, press Control, Option, Space. Shift, off. You are currently on a button. To click this button, press Control, Option, Space. Remove beer, button. You are currently on a button. To click this button, press Control, Option, Space.
Okay. So if we saw, all I could hear was add bear, remove bear, and click the button. That's it, right? When I clicked on the button for the first time, add bear, it didn't even announce that there's a second button present. Maybe it's in disabled state, but it is still present. So someone who is visually impaired or is blind, he would not even know that there are two buttons on the screen. Secondly, it didn't announce the heading, Hamburg Barometer. The visually impaired user doesn't even have a context what this particular application is all about. Thirdly, it wasn't announcing the live update to the thumbnail component, and for that matter, it didn't announce the thumbnail component at all, making it so less inclusive for all the users. So this test completely failed. Let's go to the second test. I have a wave plugin to see the color contrast to check how it behaves for the visually impaired users as well as for colorblind users. And let's see what happens. There is no audio in this, don't worry. So as we can see on the left-hand side of the screen, that it has raised some color contrast errors already, and it is pointing out to some structural elements that may or may not be right in our main content. It also tells us that the order by which the entire components will be read to the screen, and it only has a 1 on add beer, and that is something that we also saw in the demo, that the thumbnail component wasn't being read, the heading component wasn't being read aloud, right? And it also tells us that the YCAG AA and AAA compliance are failed. And mind it, when we talked to Cursor, it said that I have made sure that the YCAG 2.2 AA guidelines are being followed and enforced. But again, Cursor let us down, and these things have failed. OK, the third thing. Let's just try injecting some SSS script to our code and see whether it fails or passes. So for that, what I'm doing over here is I'm changing just when the count is greater than 6, I'm just injecting that script, and let's see what happens right now. So as soon as you pass 6, oops, again, we failed the XSS script injection. So privacy is definitely also not handled by our reusable component that our Cursor developed for us. So we are sure that AI or any ID can generate design system components really, really fast, right? But does it generate good design system components really, really fast? I think no. At least the 3 checks were failing. So this is my favorite meme that I often use in my presentations to define expectations versus reality. The demo had an initial wow factor, but it failed the compliance check marks. And this is exactly what I call as the inflated expectations. This meme is funny, but it makes a serious point. AI looks impressive, but without guidance, it can miss the mark. But we also need to see how AI can actually meaningfully integrate with design systems. Design systems aren't just some pretty buttons and colors. It's about consistency, constraints, and especially it should be about human-centered design. AI can help, but only if it respects those rules. So I'll be sharing some tips and tricks that I have learned and still learning how I can meaningfully integrate AI in design systems. So tip number 1, design systems love guardrails or constraints. And that's the big idea with them, right? So whenever we are, for example, designing a button, we don't want button to have any of the color from the 16 million hex codes that are available. We want to restrict it or constrain it to the 20 color tokens that maybe my organization follows. Similarly, when we say that a button can have a size small, small shouldn't mean maybe 10 pixel or 12 pixel or 14 pixel. It should be assigned to a spacing token or a size token, which means a particular size at any language across products. That's the whole idea about design systems. AI loves constraints and guardrails as well. So it's a classic garbage in, garbage out problem. In the demo, we saw that the agent just picked one random color from the 16 million hex codes that are available. So telling the model that the constraints will surely be giving us better output. So it's like you are giving your AI agent high quality input, and it gives you back high quality output. Tip 2. One thing that AI is really, really, really good at is replicating work. And therefore, it can help us in expanding the existing design systems, themes, or maybe localization. Maybe you have an extra small button, or a small button, or a medium button, or a large button, and you want it to create an extra large button for you. Or maybe you already have a primary or a secondary or a danger variant in place, and you want it to create a loading state variant. Since now you already have the expert design system base already created, it's very easy for the LLM or the agent to follow those rules simply and just do the work for you. And it will, of course, save us a lot of time by writing those, updating those documentation and test cases. Um, Something that we all must have tried 100%, that AI can help us do the document generation, the test generation, and the release notes. But something that AI does beautifully for us is those boring, mundane tasks, right? So for example, you created a new variant and a new size, and now you have 4 variants, 4 sizes of your button component, and let's say 2 focus states, which means you have 4 into 4 into 2, which is 32 combinations of a button state at a particular time. And you have to manually test all those states and make sure that it's working in the system is quite a tedious task. And that's what you can regulate and ask AI for you to do. Fourth, AI can help us enforcing those design tokens. AI can scan the existing components and flags for inconsistencies or suggest you consolidated suggestions. It can track all the component changes and suggest the migration paths for deprecated elements. So for example, if you're hard coding a button component to say orange, it will automatically monitor it and tell you, no, this particular component it's hard coded. You should be using a particular token for this button component instead. Last but not the least, in life we often draw lines between what we do and what we don't. These lines are often visible between designers and engineers, right? But with AI, those lines are starting to blur. Rapid prototyping, quickly putting an idea to code, it just helps the designers have some realistic representation of an application, and we are often able to catch those errors early in the cycle. So as Brad Frost says that we guesstimate this approach could save developers create components 40 to 90% faster manually by writing things from scratch. Brad Frost is the author and creator of Atomic Designs. If case you haven't read his book, I highly recommend doing so. Speed is valuable, but what is speed without intention? You are just really borrowing it against the future. And that's where Figma MCP comes into picture. You can think of MCP as a USB-C for your AI model, right? Rather than forcing the AI agent to visually implement and integrate from that screenshot of the Figma image that you gave it, or from any internet picture that you gave it, you are asking the MCP server and your ID to actually look at those tokens in the Figma file and create the AI design for you. So without the MCP server, the developer is left to interpret the Figma designs. So the developer goes to Figma, maybe takes a screenshot, or tells from his understanding or her understanding of the component, gives it to the ID talks to the LLM, and generates the code for you. With the MCP server in place, we are kind of eliminating the developer from this entire flow. So now you have the MCP server directly talking to your Figma file, where it intelligently looks at the layer in the Figma file, gives it to the ID, and the ID can just talk to the LLM now. It's very easy. You just need to go to preferences in your Figma file, enable the dev MCP server, go to the component that you are supposed to design, and just copy the link to the selection. It will give you a unique node ID or a layer ID. And you can just the developer's job is to put that particular thing in your cursor or any ID. So from writing that long prompt, which to the best of my knowledge, I think I added every possible thing, is now, and it also failed all the compliance checks, we now have transformed this huge piece of code into that one line of thing. You can write your own MCP servers on top of the Figma MCP servers that is available and give it to your IDE client. But the key thing over here is structuring the Figma files and making sure that the segmentic layering, the names, and the reusable components are in the right shape and form. You're using the right tokens for all the spacing or the color contrast or the radius or the typography and everything, so that AI can map directly into the code. So we really need to test and trust our designers on this particular thing and make sure that they are using the right tokens and doing their job right so that we can do our job right. So if you want to take one thing from this talk today, I would just say that AI can save you more cycles. As you know, that software development has always been the game of abstractions. If we think back, we went from transistors to CPUs. We went from computer instructors and assembly to JavaScript. We have gone from documented get element by ID to things like React. So AI will perform that next step of abstraction for you. But we still need to do the core principles, right? You are still going to understand your code. You still need to understand how to debug it. You still need to understand whether it works for human interfaces or not. You still need to do that accessibility checks. You still need to follow the governance model. You still need to follow that compliance checks. But notice in this analogy that the steering wheel is still there, because because you, the developer, should still be in the driver's seat, and AI is simply a companion that sits next to you. The win is humans along with AI. It's not humans instead or replacing AIs. The question isn't whether AI will change the design system or not. To be honest, it already has. The question is whether you will be the team to use AI to build the next generation of design systems, or will you be the team wondering why everyone else's components are shipping faster and better and more consistent than yours? And with this, I leave you with one moment that really captures the spirit of embracing change. AI is that change. It's here to help us, it's here to challenge us, it's here to push us to do better.
Fellas, we're broken. We need to change. And look, I know change can be scary. 1 minute, you're playing freeze tag out there at recess with all your buddies. Next thing you know, you're getting zits, your voice gets low, and every time your art teacher, Miss Scanlon, leans over your desk to check and see how your project's going, you feel all squiggly inside. She was a striking woman. Not classically beautiful, but striking. First time I ever saw tan lines. Most of the time, change is a good thing. I think that's what it's all about. Embracing change. Being brave. Doing whatever you have to so that everyone in your life can move forward theirs. 'Cause maybe it's the only way you can truly help her be happy. Obviously, by her, I'm referring to lady football.
Good save.
So thank you, everyone. That's me on LinkedIn. In case you want to connect or DM, I'll be happy to connect.